friends, it's Mari Clark here for Honeybee Stamps. I'm going to be creating this sweet little slimline card for you today. This is a card that could be used for a Valentine card, a birthday card, an Easter card, anything really, since the sentiment that I placed on it is hello, which is pretty generic. I am going to be using the sweet Honey Bunny stamp set, and I'm also going to use the Slimline Sentiment Stitched die. I'm going to be using that stitched slimline die there for the front of my card. I'm also going to be using some of the Horizon Slimline border dies as well. I love that set. It's so awesome for all kinds of different projects. I also wanted to use my outdoor scene builder stencils. I thought about using this cloud stencil, but I end up just using the outdoor scene builder stencil. I'm going to specifically be using the cloud stencil here to create the sky for my little scene that I'm going to be working on here today. So those are the main products that I'm going to be using for my project. I'm going to start off here with my card front. I have two panels that I have die cut from white cardstock here using that Slimline Sentiment stitched die, and I'm going to use my Honeybee blending brush here to create some ink blending here on my card front. So for the first part here, this first piece of white cardstock, I'm going to blend on my sky or my clouds, and I'm going to be using some Distress Oxide ink in Broken China for my clouds. And I'm using, actually this white cardstock is some Strathmore Bristol Smooth cardstock. I just really like that for ink blending specifically. So you can just see me here going in with this smaller blending brush, and I'm going to blend my clouds on. And I didn't want to just create sort of like straight clouds across. I decided that I wanted my clouds to crisscross a little bit for more of maybe a natural effect. And you'll just see me here turning my stencil so that my clouds are going to be sort of a little bit overlapping in that way. So I'm just going to go part way across there. And here I'm really frustrated because my cardstock is moving around. So I grab some of my sticky grid and I stick that to my mat, and you can just see now my paper will not move at all as I'm ink blending. So forgot to do that initially, and now I've got that in place. You can just see here how I'm, like I said, crisscrossing my clouds by turning my stencil on an angle. Just varying where I'm stenciling on that stencil so that my clouds have a varied appearance, size, and shape, so to speak. And here you can just see I'm continuing on with that. And I have sped this up quite a bit just because it's really the same thing over and over again. But I did want to keep this all in the video so you have an idea of how I created this sky area at the top. And some of this is going to get covered up with my little scene and my little grassy hills that I'm going to be creating. But I wanted to make sure that I had enough of this cloud at the top for the hills, because I wasn't exactly sure how much of my cardstock or my base here was going to be hills and how much was going to be sky. So now I'm going in with a few different green inks. I just kind of grabbed a bunch of different shades of green here. I think this one is Shabby Shutters Distress Oxide ink, and I'm going in with the background Honeybee Stamps blending brush now, a larger brush just because like this is a much larger area obviously, and I'm going in also with a little bit of Twisted Citron, I think, and some Mowed Lawn possibly, just some different greens. I wanted to create some depth with my greens, and so to do that I use a few different colors of green to create that depth in the grassy hill area. So you can just see here, I'm just varying my inks as I'm blending this on. I don't really care if it's a smooth, one solid ink color. Obviously, I wanted the inks to be lighter and darker in different areas. Now I'm taking the Horizon Slimline border die. That's the little, you could use this for snowbanks or hills or whatever, waves in the water. I love this die set. It's so cool. You could use this for an A2 size card, slimline card. The really great thing is that if the die is slimline sized, you can always size it down, right? So it's a little bit easier to, I think, to size it down than to try and size things up a little bit. I'm using my 3L foam adhesive here to pop up the little hill area. So I just took that piece of cardstock that I had added the green distress ink to, I cut it into the hills. And the nice thing about that is it's got the stitching on the side. So if you cut your panel before you blend the ink onto it, it's going to have that stitching on there for you. And I also added a little bit of that darker mauve lawn on the top edge of my hills, just to make the top edge just a little bit more dominant, and so that the hills show up a little bit when they're overlapped like that. Now I've got my Honey Bunny stamps stamped out that I wanted to use from that stamp set. These little bunnies are so cute. I absolutely love them. And I'm using some Copic inks in the W grays, the warm grays, to create some color on my bunnies. I'm only going to show you coloring one of the bunnies because I use the same method for all three of the little bunny groupings. And I think I'm just using here W0, W1, W2, just the lower end Ws, just so that they're really nice and light, and starting with a lighter color, going in and putting some shade in, and then blending that out with a lighter color again. And I really like how my little bunnies look when I'm all finished here. I did want to use some pinks and reds as well. I'm going to be using a little bit of pinks on the insides of their ears, on their cheeks, and then the little heart that this sweet little bunny is holding onto is going to be a dark red. And you'll see me add that here in just a minute. Got to get a little bit of light pink on those cheeks. And I really wanted a nice, rich, dark red for the hearts that are on this card. There's a couple of hearts here. This little bunny, sweet little bunny here is holding one, and then two of the other little bunnies have a heart as well. So there is the card front there. I'm just showing you my card base is just a really nice light blue. And when I've got the front all embellished and everything created on there, I will add that to my card base. Now, I did use some other products here. I used the House Builder card base dies to create the little fence. Now, this little tiny fence is just like a sweet little white picket fence that I wanted to put behind my little bunnies. And I also stamped and colored and die cut a bunch of other little pieces to embellish my card as well. And I cut a bunch of pieces from some other sets. I used the I'm just going to grab it here for you so I can show you. I used the Happy Bee Day set, and you can see that there's lots of little like mushrooms and flowers and things, a snail. I used Wait a Goat as well. You can once again see there's all kinds of different little bits here to use for embellishing your projects. And I am going to stick the die cut fence pieces down to my card before I put the bunnies and the other embellishments on here. So I'm just using my honeybee glue tube to get the fence pieces stuck down. I do have to overlap them because the fence wasn't long enough to go all the way across, but this is really super easy to do, and you would never know that they're actually overlapped. And I'll just trim off the extra fence there that's going over the edge of the card. I'll just trim that off with my scissors. I'm popping up my bunnies on a little bit of foam adhesive to give them a little bit of dimension on my card. And I wanted to kind of create three little, in my visual triangle here on my card, three little kind of embellishment areas. So these two little bunnies are going to go at the bottom. Now I'm adding some more of the fence to the hills on the next layer. And I'm going to get those stuck down there again, just using my honeybee liquid adhesive to stick those down, using my tweezers to get those overlapped. And then once again, just trim that extra fence off. I'll just flip the card over, take my scissors, trim that off. And I will pop up the next little bunny group as well on some foam adhesive here. Get that ready to go and pop those little guys down on that next hill. So just going to get those ready and pop them down there. Super cute. I love these little guys. They're so sweet. Absolutely adorable. And like I said earlier, this could be any type of card. The nice thing about putting a hello sentiment on a card is you can really use it for anything. And I love it when a stamp set has kind of like a generic sentiment on it as well as other types of sentiments, so that you can make it sort of just for whatever. And then, you know, you've got a really versatile card. So that sweet little bunny is going to go at the top. And I wanted to do some heat embossing stamping with the sentiment for this card. So I put it into my regular size MISTI, stamping out that hello sentiment from the Honey Bunny set, and I'm going to stamp it out in some Versa Fine Clair ink, which is a slow drying, really nice crisp black ink. Put my clear embossing powder over top of that and then heat that up and melt it. And now my sentiment is nice and dimensional and glossy and really pretty on the card, but subtle, right? So just a nice little sentiment at the top there. Love how this turned out. And you can see how I've added the flowers and the mushroom and the snail to each one of the little bunny areas just to embellish. I just stuck those on with a little bit of glue dots, and you could add those little embellishments wherever, but I tried to keep them tight in with my little bunny clusters. And I like how they looked here. So I'm just adding some of my liquid adhesive to the back of my card panel for the front of my card here. I'm going to stick that down to my Slimline card base, which is a 7" by 3.5" card base. Or I should say it's 3.5 inches by 8.5. I think I have that right. I always forget the dimensions of my Slimline. And here I'm just going to take a little bit of Wink of Stella and add that to my bunnies. This is just some clear Wink of Stella that just adds a little bit of shine, and I love that. It's not too in your face crazy, it's just really nice and subtle. And when you turn the card in a certain way, you can see that little bit of sparkle and shine on these sweet little bunnies. So I haven't added any other embellishments on the bunnies, on top of the bunnies yet. The Wink of Stella is the first layer. Then I go in with my gel pen. So I'm going to add a little bit of white gel pen to some different areas on my card. And I'm going to add some black glaze. And the black glaze is definitely a little bit dimensional. You can just see I'm adding a little highlight to the little cheeks of my bunnies. I added a little highlight to the snail. And this is the black glaze. And I'm going to add that to the bunnies' noses. And the bunny at the bottom has the open eyes. The one bunny at the bottom has the open eyes. So I'm actually going to put some glaze over top of that bunny on the left there at the bottom on his eyes as well. So like I said, that glaze is just nice and dimensional. Now this is some Marvy snow marker, or a Marvy snow marker, I should say. This is a really cool marker because it comes out as a fairly runny liquid. You have to be really careful. Just dab it on there gently because it runs out pretty fast otherwise. And I just wanted to dab a little bit on my areas where the bunny's tails are showing because I wanted them to have fluffy tails. So I'm just dabbing a little bit of that on there. And then when you take the heat tool to that snow marker liquid, it puffs it up. I don't know if you can really see it well on the video here, but it just adds this really cool dimension to the bunny's tails, and I think that's super fun. I could have added some stickles there, some white stickle or like diamond stickles, stardust stickles, but I wanted them to be matte, and this is a way to add that dimension. I think it just looks really fun. So there you can see that all finished, ready to go. Now I want to add some stickles to some of the different areas here to add a little bit more sparkle. So the pink flowers, wherever there's a little bit of pink ink on there, I'm going to add some pink stickles over top and go ahead and add that to all of the different little pink areas on my card. And this just adds, once again, just a tiny little bit of sparkle to the card. I think it just looks really pretty and adds just that little extra pizzazz to your card that makes it look extra special. I want a little bit of yellow as well. So there's some tulips on the card and there's a daffodil. And I'm going to add the yellow stickles to each one of those different yellow flower areas as well. And I think that just looks super fun. So finish up with that daffodil just in the bottom. It's super important when you're adding all of these different things onto your card to try to make sure that you don't get your hand in the areas that are wet as you're going along. So sometimes it might be good to let one layer of embellishing dry before you go ahead and add the next if you feel like you're going to get your, fingers or your hand into the areas that are wet. But I just went for it. I just thought, oh, I'm just I will be super careful and think about where the different wet areas are. So sometimes I just turn my card a little bit or move my hand in a certain way to avoid getting my hand in the different areas there where there is a wet medium. So I'm just adding some red stickles to my two little mushrooms because I did color them with red dots, and just to finish them off in that way. And I also wanted to add some dimensional glue. This is the Nouveau Glaze, and I'm going to add that to the two little heart areas. This is basically the same thing as glossy accents. The Nouveau Glaze is a little bit less thick than the glossy accents. I do find that it is a little bit easier to apply, and I have never had that Nouveau Glaze clog on me. It just is I find it quite good, so I usually use that, and I've used it on both of the hearts. And now I'm just holding this up to the light a little bit so that you can see all of the different details that I've added. And I love this little scene that I've created here with all of these different honeybee products that I've used. I have linked up to all of the different products in the description box below so that you can find those in the honeybee shop. I wanted to add a little bit more gel pen here. Here you can just see this is where I'm going in and adding that to the eyes. This is the black glaze gel pen to the little eyes of that bottom bunny there. I thought I had done that already, but now I'm just adding that in. And now I think I actually decided I wanted to add some little eyelashes to my bunnies. And I do have a really nice, super fine black pen that I can add this sort of detail to my projects with. And you can just see, once again, very carefully trying not to get my hand in the different mediums that I've added there. So in the Nouveau Glaze or in the stickles, just being really, really careful not to mess any of that up while I'm adding these eyelashes. It would definitely have been wise to do this part earlier because it is a little bit more intricate, but it can be done. You just have to be a little bit careful. So loved adding those little eyelashes in as a finishing touch here. So I'm just going to go ahead and finish that up. And I will have another section here at the end of the video where I'm showing you the card close up, but I just love how this turned out. I think it's super sweet and love these little bunny designs from the Love Letters collection release from January. Super, super cute, just so adorable. Thank you so much for stopping by and watching my video. I hope you were inspired today. Make sure that you subscribe and that you hit that notification bell so that you get a notification when there's new videos. Thanks so much, guys. Have an amazing day. Stay healthy, stay safe, and I'll see you another time.